Welcome back to Worldview. For weeks, the Syrian government has been threatening a large-scale assault on the last rebel stronghold in Idlib. The prospect of another chemical weapons attack has already led to a US threat of missile strikes in retaliation. But behind the scenes, another weapon being deployed, an online influence operation aimed at turning American public opinion against such a strike. Researchers in the US have analysed more than 850,000 tweets collected after a chemical attack in Douma back in April, which killed at least 70 people. They've uncovered 300% increase in the creation of new Twitter accounts shortly after the attack. A significant minority of those tweets were disseminated by one well-coordinated state actor, almost certainly Russia. Nearly half of the accounts created in the week between the Douma chemical attack and the Western strike against the Syrian regime were believed to be fake accounts. And the single most common procedural tactic shared by all of those accounts was threatening not to vote for President Donald Trump again. So using the American president's favoured medium to mobilise his base against a military strike in Syria. Back in April, it didn't work. Coalition strikes followed about a week after. But researchers believe that over time, these counter-narratives can go a long way towards changing attitudes and ultimately policy. Well, I'm joined from Washington by Jack Nassetta, who led much of that research and wrote the report and is with the Centre for Non-Proliferation Studies at the George Washington University. Jack, thank you for joining us. Fascinating research, because we know the Russians have been up to this for a while, but you've exposed it in impressive detail with looking at hundreds of thousands of tweets. What surprised you most in your findings?
Good to be with you, Dominic. I'd say the most surprising factor of looking at these tweets was the overwhelming majority of them, I'd say near 100%, that were pretending to be conservative Americans. We saw almost no liberal fake actors. And that's because we determined the only way that they hope to dissuade Donald Trump and the entire coalition from striking Syria would be to undermine his political base. The Russian government understands the mind of Donald Trump, and it's one that does not care about criticism from anyone but his most determined supporters, and that's what they tried to fake.
Now, your critics and the skeptics are going to say, well, how do you know all these accounts were fake? So a bit about your procedures first and your technique. How do you know for sure that Colonel Bob, whatever, in Michigan is not Colonel Bob in Michigan? He's actually a fake account that's been invented by some troll farm in Russia.
Right, and that's an important point in that it's extremely difficult to determine this. And that's why I want to say you see a lot on social media accusations of fake users being thrown around. And most of the times they were wrong. For every user that we classified as fake, we reviewed the entire account's history exhaustively. We ran statistical metrics on it, and we looked personally at every tweet in order to determine it, looking at a number of factors, from something as simple as the account creation date. Like you said, a 300% increase in creation of accounts shortly after the attack. So if an account was created just a day ago and is tweeting 100 times about the chemical attack, that's a red flag. There are also more complex factors, such as the account's activity and inactivity. Russia appears to leave most of its accounts dormant when there isn't a world event that they want to be involved with. So you'll see months gaps between the activities and the accounts. Putting that together with simple things like running a reverse search on the profile image, which in one example revealed that the account had stolen his profile picture from a Russian nature photographer. Combining all those things, we're able to make the correct determination.
So you're onto it, and Twitter seems to be onto it. Are we wising up to this? Is it getting less and less effective as more and more people realise what the Russians and other actors are up to?
I'm not sure that you can say it is, because the way that they evolved their tactics, throughout 2016, it was a pretty basic strategy. You saw politically divisive posts in order to confuse and perhaps lower turnout throughout the American public. But now they're launching these more tactical campaigns where they'll operate for a week or two after a major event such as Douma. And yes, they technically failed in their main objective to stop the attack, but it brought up the minds, and you see it being discussed among major alt-right figures in the U.S. such as Alex Jones and people like Vanessa Beeley in the U.K. who drive these narratives. So if they're able to raise it from social media to more common discourse, I'd say they succeeded in a way.
Well, look at these pictures of what happened in Duma. We should remind ourselves this is pretty cynical. It's lying about and spreading a false narrative about what was an atrocity. Is Twitter, briefly, Jack, is Twitter doing enough of what you're doing, trying to find these accounts, but in Twitter's case, able to close them down? Is it doing enough finding them and then shutting them down?
I can say absolutely that it is not. Just before I came on air, I checked a number of the accounts that are named in our study, and they are all still on Twitter. Some of these are extremely easy to find, such as the bot accounts, which just post links over and over about Syria. Twitter could easily locate and shut down these accounts.
Jack, thank you very much for your time. Fascinating stuff. We'll have to leave it there, though. Thank you for that. An interesting story and some forensic detail.